song stuck in my head.
Again?
Yeah, that's a different one now, though.
That's right. Forgot which song is it.
It's that Step Inside of My Heart song.
You haven't shown it to me yet. And you keep singing it.
Oh, the other one.
No, that one. You haven't played it yet.
Yeah. You know that song. You've seen it. The other one, the country one, you haven't heard. And I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed of it. So I haven't let you hear it.
Well, today we are talking about fine arts versus sports.
And we're going to be biased. We're just talking about music right now. So.
Right. So, it's going to be,
I was actually thinking about that right now because, like, even though there are, like, different answers for it, I'm definitely split. And I was like, why can't there just be a compromise?
Right.
Go ahead. But I guess introduce it the way that we
No,
usually
well,
do.
I think this comes up, like, a lot of these just pop in my head and I write them down and then I'll put them on a poll on Instagram. So if you're not following us on Instagram, I suggest you do. That way you can get to vote on the weekly topic. And me being a music educator, it sometimes comes up with like conflicts and stuff and people doing sports and stuff. And so it's something that's just a part of some of my career and I see it frequently. And I guess there's always sometimes a little bit of having to pick and choose which one you're going to have to do. And sometimes they don't want to coexist or whatever. And it is what it is, I guess. Partially it's our culture. Partially it's our policies, like within organizations and schools and so on. But whatever, we sometimes we have no choice but to deal with it and try to change it in a different way if we want any change from it.
Did you introduce our title? What we're gonna?
Yes, it's sports versus finance.
Oh, I thought like athletics. Well, okay, it's the same thing, I guess.
Yeah, I guess what would be the difference?
Well, I don't know. I would have to get more definitions. Sports or athletics versus fine arts.
So, again, we've been really liking ChatGPT, so it helps us at least kind of organize our thoughts a little bit, or at least it kind of helps us get some bullet points across. And sometimes it helps us think of stuff that we wouldn't have thought of. So here in the first part is similarities between sports and fine arts is expression of human ability, discipline and training, performance and competition, and cultural impact. Versus differences is physical versus emotional, objective versus subjective success, the purpose of it, the impact on the body, and public engagement. Anything you would like to...
Very interesting, because I think that they can both be... There are definitely more similarities than differences in that, okay, so like physical or emotional, in dance or musical theater, you have... It is an extremely physically demanding
right,
thing.
and I think it did mention that in one of them that...
and then objective versus subjective success.
What?
They have, like, music competitions. There is competition in it.
Right.
And so, like, I don't see where there is, like, a difference between objective and subjective. Or, well, maybe a little bit.
I personally have always thought art competitions are just kind of full of shit. Full of crap, because it is so subjective. And I don't like sometimes subjective competition because it just depends on who your judge is. It's not really, and ultimately I think the success of something artistic isn't in the short term, it's more in the long term. Like you're making me decide now, but later on, like whether it has more of a long-term success. And I think to me time is almost the marker of success for artists or for artistic things. So especially like in music, sometimes I'm hardly ever up to date on a new song because it's, I don't know, I feel like it needs that time to get to me, and I think if it's lived the test of 10 years and it's still around, then I think then it's a good song for a reason, and that's how it finally got to people's ears still after about that time marker. But if you're popular right now, it's like, okay,
Dang,
great,
that's a
you're,
long time.
yeah, but I do see that in like how the songs pop out, like especially when it's a new song to me, and I'll Shazam it or whatever, and it's usually about like it I feel like it's rarely, for sure, within the past 5 years that it's,
Do
and
you
it
think
usually
it's
be
just like one of the algorithms though, or like something that?
no, because I mean like it's usually when I find it
But
good.
maybe it's like your style or taste. Maybe you
Maybe.
like that, like old
Yeah,
music.
maybe
But it's still, you're saying about withstanding the withstanding time, right?
withstanding the test of time.
That's one of the big differences that I've seen between athletics and fine arts is that unfortunately it is easier for our bodies to endure fine arts, and it is not as easy for your body to endure athletics.
Yes.
Right,
Well,
so,
at least
like-
in different, like it did mention like dancers and stuff. Like if you guys have seen Black Swan, like how kind of crazy the feet thing can get, and like how just like the way their bodies is still almost like gymnastics, but in an artistic sense.
Well, like, so I have, it doesn't look like it anymore, but I used to play sports and I used to dance. And, like, I still have calluses from dance, which I think is crazy, of how much you practice and how much you do to your body, that your body becomes callous, you know? And with sports, I stopped playing because I got hurt. And so it was like, I don't want to say career ending, but I couldn't play anymore. I couldn't play to the capacity that I needed to play, but I could still dance. Okay. And then I got training on how to work around the injuries, right? Like in dance. And that wasn't ever offered in athletics, which is kind of beyond me. I don't understand why, but nevertheless, that's what happened. And I think it depends on what you want from it. So if you're gonna want money out of this, you've got to go with fine arts. And if you're going to want it for your enjoyment, I mean, unless they take a handful of professional in athletics. Like, you may get your college paid for, but then after that, we've seen so many friends, family members, who are, like some of my cousins now, they're coaches, and they're making money and they're able to support themselves. They are not famous. They have many awards, but it doesn't matter. Like, they're getting paid as any other teacher would.
Right, and I did rabbit hole a little bit into that. Because to me, I feel like that's part of like an end goal. Like, why have this? And I understand, especially as an artist, sometimes you just want to do things just to do them. Okay, so I understand if you want to do sports just to do it because you love the sport and you like playing and competing and so on. And I think that mentality also allows you to be able to lose better. Like in sports, there has to be a winner and a loser, and it teaches you that kind of winning isn't everything, and if you're really doing it because you like it, then you'll continue to do it. And also, that doesn't mean to do it at a low caliber or whatever, or a crappy capacity, but it does show the value in that, in winning and losing, but that winning isn't everything, and it just helps you grow and so on and so on. But long term, I would like to, like, why are you doing this long term? And there's benefits to both, and I think to me, especially in like modern times, especially with like how inflation is going, having a little extra money wouldn't hurt at all to have a little bit of extra money. And I think fine arts is a better path to that. So even if you're not doing it at a professional capacity where you can live off of your artistic abilities, you can still earn a few bucks here and there by doing a few gigs or whatever. Like, can you play guitar and sing and whatever? Cool, go play you can play a little coffee shop and whatever and earn a few bucks. Like some pay, I don't know, $50 an hour for whatever that is. And of course, you're not going to have an 8-hour shift at $50 an hour. You're not going to, and that would also be testing your physical abilities to be able to sing for that long and so on and so on. But that's not sustainable. That's not that's not what our point is. But even if you get really good at any athletic skill, usually you have to pay to still be into some sort of league or whatever. Like, you're not going to be getting paid for this. You're actually paying to get into it. And so to me, that also seems like instead of making money, you're losing money. And I understand you love the sport or whatever, but facts are still facts. You're losing money over gaining money from this.
Sometimes there's scholarships, and sometimes they pay you to be on a team.
But it's not. I don't think it's the same as like you can't be a freelance quarterback or whatever. Freelance.
I wonder if they're doing it. So I have a friend whose daughter plays soccer, and the team actually picked her up and paid for her to be on it. Well, paid her in the sense of, we're going to give you your uniform, we're going to give you all of this stuff. And it's worth a lot of money. And she did it because she loves it, right? And it keeps her healthy, it keeps her athletic, it keeps her going. And so I'm wondering if that end goal for them is to play professionally.
Right. And again, I understand all those things. Like, we're gonna get stuff in the comments or blah blah blah. Like, I understand doing it for the sake of doing it, and maybe not looking for that monetary gain or professional, and you're just doing it because you like doing it. But I'm still comparing that in fine arts. I think you're more likely to make money than you would in sports.
I agree. Yeah, because we even have artist friends, and they're like, "Oh man, I need to make some money. I'm ready to do a what is it called? Starts with a C. Like a piece.
Commission?
A commissioned piece. Okay, I'm gonna do a commissioned piece for you. $600.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Dang. Well, why am I gonna pay you that much?" Well, you are, and they do. They get paid commissioned pieces that are just extraordinarily expensive, but worth their time. Right. They put their time into it. And so I definitely think that fine arts has a lot more monetary give to multiple people. I think in order for you to make money in athletics, you have to be very good.
Right. And
very, very extraordinary, extremely talented, very able to modify positions, right? Like, if you're going to play baseball, you have to be able to play several different positions or be open to, I don't know, switching in order to be picked up.
I know I had this in here. Oh, here it is. The funnel. So pretty much, what is the funnel like? And what I mean by the funnel is however many kids start playing, like in Little League. So you have this amount of kids, and then how many continue to play like in school, like or middle school or high school. Okay, and that probably decreases. And then from middle school, high school to college, that decreases, and then finally to professional, and that's a very tiny amount. So I did ask ChatGPT for the numbers, and it says U.S. numbers. About 60 million children aged 6 to 18 participate in organized sports in the U.S. annually, and going on to high school to college. So of the 60 million children, 7.9 million play sports in high school. And then from that group, from the 7.9 million that play sports in high school, 495,000 athletes compete in NCAA college sports. So it showed that that's 6.3% of the 6.3% of the 7.9 million. Yeah. So yeah, and that's just to get into college sports. And from college, only 1.6 of NCAA athletes make it to professional levels. In in certain sports like football and baseball, the number is even smaller. Football says 1.6, men's basketball is 1.2, and baseball is 9.9. So I guess that one's a little bit better. And sustainable professional careers. Even those who make it into professional sports, only a fraction earn enough for long-term financial sustainability. So this I didn't know, and it was kind of fascinating. In the NFL, the average career lasts about 3.3 years.
That makes sense.
And the NBA is 4.5 years. The median salary across all U.S. professional athletes is $43,740 dollars a year. So that's still not even like. I was super surprised at that number. That's the average.
Not even a salary, a teacher salary.
Right. So that kind of made me feel a little.
That's really
better.
sad.
And so, I think it's again a mentality of. I don't know. It's like a lottery mentality. Like you're gonna put all your eggs in one basket type deal, where you could nurture it, use almost that same type, and either spread it out or like. I don't know. And get more back from it than what you're getting on this. To it feels like a gamble to try to make it like I'm going to be one of the best players to play in this sport. And sometimes I feel like that comes from parents too, like parents pushing the kids to do a sport that sometimes they don't want to. And I've heard kids that they're afraid to tell their parents, like, I don't even like doing this, but my dad's making me or my mom's making me do this.
You know, do you think that's like that because sports are, like at the YMCA or YWCA, whatever, you can put your kid into something like that. You can put them into a sport, which is excellent. They need that. Like, even with our kid, we've done this before. Like, put them into a sport so they can learn how to follow directions. They can learn how to be a team player. They can learn how to pass the ball. Like, you have to be able to learn these different skills that play and sports assists in, right? However, there isn't much like that for kids in the music world. Like, oh, we're going to have a YMCA or a YWCA band. Like, you just come and we're going to teach you how to count music. We're going to let you play some instruments. You know, you have like mommy and me classes or something when you're really small, when they're very, very little, like kinder music, right? And then all of a sudden, like, there's nothing to it until they go into school. And then in kindergarten, they're introduced to like kinder music, right? Where they have to sing little songs. And that should have already been done by the parents singing Row, Row, Row Your Boat. It should have already been done teaching the ABCs in song. But a lot of times we don't have time. Well, I've heard this excuse. CoComelon, yes, it's a great tool, but it's a tool. You have to use it, right? And so many people just put their kid in front of the TV and let the damn TV babysit instead of facilitating this little baby brain, which is amazing, right? But I don't think that we offer any arts to kids. How about you go and you do painting classes when you're little? They don't even offer that. They don't offer sculpting. They don't offer these kinds of things. So when you look at what you can put your kid in, you end up putting your kid in a sport. Yeah,
and fine arts are the one of the first to get cut in like budgets when they need money. And so
not only that, but like with music, it increases the brain's plasticity. So what that does to your brain is incredible. It helps you learn in more areas of your brain than you could learn as not being exposed to any kind of music.
Right. And so I guess, and then so it showed the fine arts funnel also. And it says millions of children worldwide participate in some sort of fine arts, whether through school programs or extracurricular activities. About 4.4 million high school students participate in some sort of visual or performing arts.
It's already a huge difference. 4.4 million opposed to how many?
7.9, I think.
No. At the...
Yeah, in high school?
Oh, okay.
7.
Like in high school. 7.9.
So it's about half of it.
And prior to that, it was 60 million. So how many are getting any kind of introduction to music before?
Right. And then, so 1.7 million students pursue degrees in arts. And I wish there was a way to, it said pursue degrees in arts, and I wanted to know how many even just took some sort of art class anyways, and not, or just kind of continued, because there were some when I was in school that were still part of the band or orchestra or whatever, and weren't music majors, so they didn't pursue the degree in arts, but they were still in it just to be in it. And so that number would probably be higher. It's 1.7 million. And then among those who pursue a career in arts, the percentage making a full-time living from their art is lower, but studies suggest that less than 10% of art graduates are able to make a sustainable living solely from their artistic work. So 10% is still way better than the 1.6 that make it to professional level. And I guess the difference here is that, like, yeah, there's artists like
much you could take me.
Yeah.
That's me. I have a degree in musical theater. I don't use it. I don't do anything having to do with music. But I have the degree, so I'm one of the less than 10%. Right?
No, because it's...
because I don't make a living from it.
Right. Yeah, less than 10% of art that are able to make sustainable living solely from their artistic work.
You're a less than 10%.
Yeah.
But still, that's higher than 1.6. Or did I get my numbers mixed up again? 1 point something.
No, you had it right. And I guess my kind of what I came to the conclusion from this stuff was that I think there's more artists because it's a little more spread out in the sense that, like, you may not be making as much as like as a Ronaldo or Messi or Patrick Mahomes and stuff, that caliber money, but to just be sustainable in your lifestyle, that seems much more doable through fine arts than it does through sports. For your career to only last, what is the average, 3.3 years, to have that sustainability for 3.3 years or 4.5 years, that's going to be that's a rude awakening. And to have put that much time into it, and then after 3.3 years you're done, like you thought you were going to make it the 10 years or have long term, and now you have to probably go back to do something else, or like if you did complete your college education, maybe you can fall back on that. I'm curious as to what the more common degrees are that athletes get, the ones that finish college and so on. See what's a good fallback degree.
Honestly, like, that statistic makes me really sad, because the 3.3, like in NFL,
right,
that means that something is career changing for them. Like, you invested this much time, be it that your parents encouraged it, and you've invested your entire life facilitating your growth as a football player, and it's over in 3.3 years.
Right.
For some of us, that's just like getting into a comfortable sweet spot.
Right.
In, like, when you hit the 5-year mark, when you're working, you're like, dang, I know what I'm doing. This feels good.
Yeah.
In your career path. And to think that their career is over is like, I don't know. I can't imagine being 3.3 years into my career thinking, you've got to do something new. It's like, oh shit, what am I going to do? I have to go back onto my degree plan that I graduated from college with, a musical theater degree. Like, let's say that was the last degree I had, right? And now I have to go back. And what work experience do you have? You don't have any. I just got finished playing in the NFL.
Yeah, that's true too.
And what if you were like a no-name player? Like, what if people didn't know you? You just put that on your resume. They're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, sure you did."
And that's verifiable and stuff too.
Well,
But
there's
it's like
the guy. There's a senator who's running for Texas, and he just got off of playing with the Tennessee Titans.
really
Yes.
interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he
And
was an
then,
NFL player, left, and he went back to get his degree in, not criminal justice, like something with politics. I'll look it up. But to leave the NFL and start doing that, I was like, wow, this is very fascinating.
Right. So it has a few more numbers here on the numbers for artists. So median annual wage for fine artists, which means would be painters, sculptors, and illustrators in the U.S. is around 50,550. So that's already higher than the average wage for sports, which was at 43,740. And musicians and singers can get about $30.49 $30.49 per hour to supplement, but many supplement through gigs, teaching, or other side work. Actors' median hourly wage is $29.87. Writers and authors' median annual wage is about $69,510. But again, this is highly variable depending on success and genre for these writers and authors. So most of these sound higher than what you would do through sports. So in the final comparison, it says the funnel is extremely narrow, with only 1.6 of college athletes making it to the pros, and even smaller for achieving long-term financial stability through sports alone. Most professional athletes have short careers, and many need to pursue other opportunities after retiring. Fine arts, while more people may participate in fine arts through their lives, the funnel also narrows significantly at the professional level. Less than 10% of art graduates are able to fully sustain themselves financially through their art alone, with many relying on additional income sources like teaching or part-time work.
Oh, okay. So they're saying like playing for the Boston Pups, like having a seated gig,
Right.
or being a famous artist, right? Like less than 10% of them are just making money
Right.
off of their art.
Yeah, so someone like playing with the New York
Yeah, like
Philharmonic
we
was
have a
probably-
friend
right.
who is doing that and sustaining her entire household,
Right.
working strictly as an artist,
Right.
and she works her butt off.
And that's what I'm saying with sports is like there's no freelance opportunity. Even like you're a really good soccer player, a really good football player, a really good basketball player. You can't go and like go to a league like, hey, I'm really good, and have auditions or like a tryouts or
Right,
whatever
right.
where they're gonna pay you. Like usually you still have to pay to to be let into the league or whatever.
I wonder if they can start by coaching.
Yeah, and there was
Like they can supplement their income by coaching. Or my idea for, I have a very athletically inclined family. They like to push athletics, and that's totally fine. I was the black sheep, right? Of like, I'm gonna go a music degree, but you can also be in like kinesiology or physical therapy. So that's where my brain goes for people that are in athletics. If you want to make a serious amount of good money and a steady job and still be able to coach and do athletics like throughout the week, or be a trainer, whatever else you're going to do, those are really good paying jobs. And you can benefit by knowing the sport, right? Because you know all of the different positions, you know how you would have played that, and you know the physical demands that your body needs to endure.
right.
But yeah, the paying gigs on the weekends and stuff for like fine arts are pretty sweet.
But now I'm thinking the more financially sustainable thing to do is you start the league, and if you like the sport, you're still involved in the sport. You can kind of set up the leagues and set up coaches and people, put people in place, set up schedules, set up locations, and then now if they're all paying, they're all willing to pay to play the sport. Now you're getting that money too. um, I'm always trying to look out now for like kind of like how you just said. How else can you kind of find a way to make money in the thing you still like maybe like how you can play with your knee anymore, but you could still be involved in the sport and not have to play it.
Yeah, the reason why I was involved in it though is because it was fun, right? Like I enjoyed playing volleyball, and it was you create such a huge, amazing family with your fellow teammates and stuff, and that camaraderie was very special for those amount of years. Like I still talk to several of the different players. Like not one, not one still plays volleyball.
Yeah, right.
But we had fun and we enjoyed ourselves. And when I was doing music, I still talked to quite a bit of singers and dancers and actors and just all of that, right? But that was for a longer period of my life. But you're busy. Like you're very busy. Like you're not playing a game. You're taking direction. You're working on your craft. It's very skilled when you're working on stage, right? Because you're going to present this to the public. And so I found that to be very different. Like, yes, you're a team and you guys have to mingle and you have to do your team building experiences, but outside of what you are working on, right? So if you're doing a show, you team build outside of the show. When you're on the court, you can team build while you're on the court, is how I felt.
Okay. But couldn't you do both in... I guess in sports, can't you team build also outside of...
Yeah, absolutely. I found there to be more team building doing a sport than doing fine arts.
Interesting. I'm trying to think, I guess, as to which or how it would be, because I feel there is team building, but I don't always feel like it's off of like the stage, I guess, like or I mean both on the I feel like it's the same, like you would team build as much on the stage versus off the stage, but I don't know, I'll have to digest that one a little more, I guess.
It's different, right? And like for me, every different show provided different opportunity. And you have to, it's like you have to reach a certain caliber. It's the same in sports. You have to play your position correctly. In order for it to be successful, right? Like you have to be a good player, whether it's on the stage or in a team, to make that team or cast stronger.
Right, and I guess, well, one thing I think we'll agree on, and with all that, it is like a very interdependent thing. Like you are relying on others, and others are relying on you, and that kind of builds the whole connectivity and team building and so on and so on. But we were talking about earlier how you said you play a lot at work, like with your patients and stuff, and you have to do things through actually doing it. And well, you do it through play with kids. And I think in fine arts too, you do it through doing, through experiencing, and I think it's the same in sports. And one thing that we were realizing is like and I kind of started realizing this a few months ago, is that why it feels like school doesn't teach you anything. And sometimes it took me a while to start realizing which parts, what did school teach me and what school didn't teach me. And sports and fine arts, as you move along, whether you're playing as a little kid, high school, college, professional, it's pretty much the same thing. It's doing the sport and just doing it, versus school. Like our last video was on benefits enrollment. They can teach you all the terms as much as they want, and they can try to make you memorize the terms and what does this mean and whatever, but without actually living it. Like I feel like there should be a way to, almost like pretend play. Who's like, all right, like I got an injury. what does your benefits package show? It's like, oh, because your benefits package shows this is what you're getting. And it has to be like not just telling me about it, like have them some sort of like have them live it like a little bit, like and again, this should be through playing. It's like a safe zone of it. So like, oh, I broke my leg, like you can get this type of cast or something, or you can get this type of medical attention. This is what your insurance covers. You have to pay us this much, versus next person next to me, my classmate, has a better insurance plan and they pay less, but also pay more monthly and stuff like that. And so I think that helps us visualize it.
That would be really great for any math teacher out there, if you're listening, because that is completely applicable to life.
Right.
So it's like life skills. You're exactly right. We need to learn, and even at the master's level. So when I was getting my master's, it was really comforting to be put into a clinic and say, hey, you're going to treat these kids.
Right.
And you're like, okay. Okay, so you start treating, but you have the backbone of a professor right there watching you. Hey, look, this is what you can do. So essentially, you're playing doctor.
Right.
Right? And so it's also...
But in a safe zone, right?
In a safe zone. Yes, because if something crazy is going to happen, they're there to catch you.
Right.
Or they're there and you can be like, hey, I need help.
Right.
Right? And you are able to finally learn in a real world setting. But it is not until, like, all of the other stuff that I had read in the... How many books would I carry around with me all the time? Yeah. Like, we would be on a date and I would have a book with me. It is not until you're in your field that when you see it in person and you're like, oh my God, that's what I read about. And then you quickly go back and you're like, what am I supposed to do?
Right.
Right? And you have to grab that knowledge that you were force fed to apply to your job.
And now that's another thing that you just mentioned is kind of through doing it, and through repetition, the same as you would do in sports or fine arts, is through the repetition that you're going to get better at it. Like, and I always like to tell my students too, is like, hey, even Tom Brady was a beginner once. He wasn't like the best thrower since he like came out of the womb. Like, hey, check out this guy. Let's check out the arm on this guy here. But
well, it becomes world knowledge, right? And so once you have that kind of like, it's like actually in your brain, it's called crystallized memory, right? So that is not going away. It is the path that has been paved and repaved. To destroy it is going to be really difficult.
Right.
But it isn't until you just continue to repeat it and do it. And your brain learns more when it's happy, right?
And yeah, and I think that is one that both have in common. And it's just it's one of those indirect lessons that just practice makes perfect, essentially. That you got to keep doing it. You got to get the bugs out. The bugs aren't going to like just like filter themselves out. Well, like you got to filter them out through repetition and doing it and eventually it comes to you faster, and that's what makes you better at it, because now you do it faster than the rookie that just came in.
Why do we do fire drills? Why do you actually put the siren on at schools for these kids?
Experience.
Because you have to experience it. Your body has to feel that jolt of, oh my God.
Right.
To learn.
And also, I always think it's fascinating, like how people yell at sports or whatever at the TVs, like, oh, come on, like I could have caught that, or blah, 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 just the super obvious ones. And without actually doing it, and maybe you had done it, but it's still different doing it, well, like being in the situation versus being removed from the situation. So if you're yelling at the TV, like, yeah, to you that catch seems super easy, but being in that situation where you got the whole stadium looking at you, the whole crowd making noise or whatever, and now you have to catch it with all that on the line. Yeah, sure, that's why you get paid the big bucks, but still, like, they made it that far, and you have not made it that far. So I think they deserve that credit, even if they did miss the easy catch or whatever. And same thing. I feel
like that's very rabbit hole-y though, because yes, they are a professional, and you have these expectations for them because they are getting paid such great amounts of money,
right?
And you feel like you invested because you bought a $160 jersey. Mm-hmm. So now you want them to catch the ball regardless of whether or not like you could do it.
Right.
I think that people just they feel it, you know, they're emotional about it, and that's the emotional part of sports.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fine. You guys can continue to yell at the TV. Sometimes you look stupid, but it is funny. I used to yell. I cried when the Yankees lost the World Series one time, and then my dad told me, he's like, "How much did they pay you?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I've never felt more stupid in my life. Yeah, I'm not gonna cry at a sport again." I didn't even cry at the sports when I had lost the game. Like, if I had...
Right.
So why give them so much pressure, credit? Like, who cares? It's fun. You do it because you love it, but don't be so emotionally attached to it that it's going to cause you a stroke, you know? It's just not worth it.
Yeah, that's a whole other rabbit hole, like how expectations ruin our own experiences. We had that in arts too, where like one of our personal experiences is and we got kind of crap for it, is when we saw Tool.
Oh yeah, we had different expectations for that, for sure.
Yeah, and I guess our own expectations ruined our experience. Like, me knowing what I know of Tool, like, I'm not a big fan, like a super big fan, but being a percussionist,
obviously
I know how...
not, because then you would have known how their concerts were gonna go.
Right. So being a percussionist, I'm a fan of their drummer and wanted to go see him live. And I know I have a few Tool songs on my playlist, maybe like 6, maybe. It's not a lot, but we went for the experience to be able to see them live and see them perform and whatever. But, well, also thinking like they're a rock band, so I was expecting like a rock concert. And it was not a rock concert, or at least by the typical definition of the word. And
we've been to several rock concerts.
Yes. And it wasn't at all like a rock concert. It was they were playing live, but there were still so many things that were kind of weird about it. It's supposed to be, and from what we learned after the fact, it's just supposed to be some sort of experience, some audio visual visceral experience.
I don't know. I think we either have needed to have been like high or drunk or something to get to that level. And I just thought it was weird that they stopped for claps after every song. Like, not even the symphony does that.
It was almost like, yeah, like golf claps after every song, and there was an intermission and awkward silence in between songs and stuff. So
don't worry, guys, though. Like, yes, we got heat for it or whatever, but they still got our money.
Right.
And we just won't go to another one of those concerts. We'll still listen to the music. Not going to go to one of the concerts. Because I don't want my phone to get taken away like I'm in fucking elementary school.
Oh, yeah. That was the other thing. No phones. You can't record the concert or whatever. So it was a very awkward experience. And so my point is that sometimes we're disappointed with the outcomes of sports, but sometimes we're disappointed with the outcomes of fine arts too. And also, in this sense, it's a little more subjective because it's not the same for every concert or whatever. Like, it's going to be a different experience at every concert, whether even the concert we went to, they performed it probably a little bit differently the way they performed at the next city or the previous city, and so on and so on.
Because they're individuals, and they all have their different way of being.
Yeah, and
some have moods, just like in Metallica. James gets in moods sometimes, and then he'll chill out. He even has said it on stage. Yeah. Like, I was pretty pissed coming out here. I didn't really want to be here, and now I'm feeling pretty good. You guys have great energy, you know. And it does happen. You feel the energy being the athlete and being the artist. Mm-hmm. You play off of people's energy. I just saw this one thing on Instagram earlier that it's like a social experiment where a guy goes and stands there at a bus stop, and the bus stop has quite a few people, and he's just quiet and standing there, and everybody's like in their own thing, you know, kind of staunch faced, and he just starts laughing hysterically, and before you know it, everybody at the bus stop is laughing, and they're saying that energy is contagious. Like, it truly is.
Yeah.
And they don't know what they're laughing at, but they're all laughing and having a great time, you know. And so you can really screw things up by just having one turd in the punch bowl.
Right. And I think we recently had, forget which video we mentioned something like that, but like about I forget the exact wording of it too, but viewing life through the almost like rose-colored glasses kind of deal. But you see, it's painted like your life is painted by the things like you surround yourself with. So it's essentially the message of it.
It's also like what you make of what's surrounding you. You know? Anyway, I'm not opposed to either. Right. To athletics or fine arts. I think that they're both extremely cultivating and motivating to kids. And I think that I love the athletic part because it's moving. It's very, it's healthy for our body. And I don't think that we get enough outdoor time. And I don't think that we get enough movement in our life. I know for freaking sure I don't. I literally sit at my job all the time. And if I could just go outside and walk around while I'm doing my treatments, that would be wonderful. And I used to do that when I was in person, right? But I'm not. And so it's different. So getting that is wonderful for kids. And that's how come I think that a lot of athletics is really good. Right? Correct. For fine arts, you can also have that. Like in marching band, it's extremely time consuming. And I can't imagine going through that. I was never in it. And it was never appealing to me to wake up at 6 a.m. and go play on the field. Like I didn't like that. And then to stay after school and still have to practice that kind of stuff. Oh my God. The dedication is very
right. And I think that's one of those like indirect lessons. Like it's not so much about that show specifically, but what are you taking from this in the long term is that to put something together like that, it takes a lot of work, and that you're willing to put that much work into it to get the product that you get in the end. And that brings me to another point is that I remember one of my colleagues and coworkers, he's also very more sports minded. And he was picking up his son from a rehearsal or from a practice, from football practice, and he sees the band practicing out there. And I think the son made a comment kind of like, man, they're still out there or whatever. And his dad said, he's like, yeah, and only for like 10 minutes on the field. Like they're here even longer than you are, and for only 10 minutes on the field. And I was like, he has a point. Like, yeah, but also that could be taken
Yikes.
in both sides, like because it almost feels like I think the comment was more to make it sound like a waste, like you're putting this much time just for 10 minutes, but at the same time you're putting this much time just for 10 minutes. You know, this is the amount of work it takes to get a 10-minute show done, if that makes sense. Yeah. And so yeah,
well, the same with football. Actually, I'm wondering how much the child is actually playing.
Right.
Too, right? So you have to do conditioning days. You have to do your drill days. You have to do like several different days of input for this amount of work. So you're essentially paying these NFL players for their experience, right? Same as the artist. You're going to pay more for a painting from a skilled artist who has been doing this for years than a novice artist who's in high school, right? And wants to sell some of their stuff.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely the amount of work that you put in.
And if you can do both, then do both after your...
They can in high school, right? Like in high school, you can play sports and be in a fine arts?
But it appears to be, at least through my like immediate experience, like those around me, it seems like it's getting more and more increasingly difficult. Like they're just fighting out for the student, and they're having to pick and choose one or the other, which I think
that sucks.
Is unfair. And this is where I think it starts getting a little too like selfish in a sense of the organization, that like these kids aren't professionals yet. Like they're not looking for this to be long term and whatever. And so like let them just have the experience of being able to have the experience. Like I want to know what it's like to be in a band and what it takes to put this production together. And also be on the football team. What does it take to have a successful slash not successful football team, but have the experience of playing football
and I guess they can't because you spread them too thin.
Maybe so.
Because honestly, like in high school, they're gonna get exhausted. Like they can't physically. Well, I don't think
I honestly
they can
don't know
do that much.
And I still see it like from time to time. Like just yesterday, I was at the high school game, and there was a few people in the marching band that had their football uniform on, and so they were marching with their football uniform on. So that means, I honestly don't know the numbers, but I have heard like from like
that's good that they
teachers.
Allow it.
Yeah, and I've seen that like even from when I was in high school. I remember that being a thing. I'm not sure about the numbers, but I have heard like now being a teacher, like when coaches and students kind of start. I mean, coaches and the fine arts teachers kind of start like pretty much tug of war, like no, well I need them or I need them and blah blah blah. And so for the next year, they almost just like I don't want to deal with this situation, so just choose one or the other. Like you go there, or you stay here, and that's that. And I think that's where it's a shame. Rough. Or maybe have separate league, quote unquote, where it's like not you're not going to take it as seriously. It's really just for the experience. Like I want to know what it's like to play an instrument. I want to know what it's like to play on a football team, but it's maybe not nearly as competitive. It's like just for the experience.
One of our little nieces or cousins, whatever you want to call her, was saying, I was like, what are you interested in? Like, what do you want to do? And she's like, well, I want to be in choir, and I want to be in dance, and I want to play softball, and I want to play volleyball, and I also want to do orchestra. And I was like, they're not going to let you. But I want to. That's wonderful. You're going to have to do a whole lot of stuff outside of school because you cannot. Right. Like, I remember wanting to do a whole bunch of different stuff also, and then you get funneled through that, and you can't. And so it had to be like one semester, instead of taking volleyball, I'm going to take dance, right? And that's like a PE course. And then one time I'm going to do this instead of that. But you have to learn to juggle all of these things.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I don't know how it is for sports, but at least for fine arts, like the higher you get into it, the less likely there's going to be a beginner thing for it. Like teachers, especially in high school, don't like dealing with beginners anymore because you're already supposed to be at a certain level. And I love teaching beginners. I wish I would be willing to, I think, teach a high school class where it's just beginners. But a lot of times, like if you already didn't start in middle school or whatever, they're expecting a certain caliber in high school and don't want to start from scratch again. But you'd be surprised how quickly kids learn. And even if you, like in high school, if you bring them in as a beginner and freshman, maybe you can't use them for the competitive band, but you'd be surprised how much they'll learn that first year. And then maybe by the second year or even third year, I think it's better than nothing. Like you still gain a few players onto the field by those third and fourth years.
I had wanted to be in band, not for like marching stuff, but I had wanted to learn how to play an instrument in high school, and they told me no, that I couldn't. Right. And so like after that, I just like never ever tried to pick up an instrument.
And so maybe it's the same in sports. Like what if somebody wants to learn the sport but doesn't really want to
play for fun but not compete?
Yeah, and there's probably not much option for that, and maybe there should be, but what do we know, right?
What do we know? I don't know, but I have some ideas floating around my head now, because I think it's really sad that we don't allow kiddos to be involved in so many different extracurriculars.
Anything else?
No, so I don't think so. Did we answer it? Athletics versus fine arts? Do both. Do what you want to do. If you want to make money from it later on, do some kind of fine arts. If you don't care about the money and you just want to do it because it's what brings you happiness and joy and movement, then do athletics. Right.
It depends by what standard you're measuring it. So to me, it was a little bit more, especially in our time right now, it seems like our dollar doesn't go as far as it used to. So we need a little more money, and I think fine arts is a little bit better equipped to give you that little bit of extra income.
I agree.
And even from what we just learned also this year, as far as like tax benefits, is there's so many like things we can do for write-offs as having almost like a side business. So if you do know how to play guitar and you gig and you actually do it with the intention of pursuing income, those are all write-offs. You want a new guitar, you can get a new guitar and write it off. So it's partially tax deducted essentially. So it's almost like it's like the government is paying for your guitar. Like you have to pay for it first, and then they kind of give you a little bit back because you're supplementing our society with your craft, and that can happen from what we learned this year, that it's you can do more with it than what we think or than what we're taught to do. So that can be a whole other video. If you're interested in that, let us know in the comments. Anything else?
No.
All right. So again, follow us on Instagram if you'd like to vote on our next categories. We also had, I forgot what we had on this week. Aging was one of them because we just saw the substance. I haven't put the ride review yet, but it will be up. So if you'd like to look out for that one. And last week we did benefits enrollment, another thing where you have to learn as a grown-up that we didn't get taught in school. So that's what we're here for, to share our experiences, and hopefully it helps you out.
Yes. And change in small increments, right?
Yes, Kaizen. Change in small increments, or improvement in small increments.
Improvement.
All right. Well,
Bye.
bye.
Thanks for watching.